would be a bit more fast stretched. After such a steep rally, it's natural that these stocks they take a consolidation for at least a couple of quarters, if not more. So I would believe that if you bought at lower levels, I think at 265 odd levels, or maybe 265, 267, wherever the stock reaches those kind of levels, you should try and look out to book profits, and then try and trade the stock back again as the stock comes closer to its support territory. Look to buy it back again lower.
Okay, Mahindra and Mahindra Finance. This one's for you, Sharmila, and it's a question coming in from Prajwal from Mysore. He's got about 70 shares, and he bought at levels of 185. Now, this is a stock that took a bit of a battering, I think, on account of the asset quality, but that asset quality seems to have improved also quite drastically. So, how should one play this
stock? Because I think that this kind of a business is an interesting business to be with if you're looking at the open upgrade, because as economy opens up, the kind of area that M&M Financial is in, they are sort of rural based, and they are the bulk of their clients are folks who would be availing of finance to buy either a tractor or a two-wheeler or a car, and their presence, pan-India presence, as well as their overall profile of the kind of products that M&M makes. Everything I think points to the fact that things will improve for M&M Finance as we go along, and as the economy opens up more and more. So the stock has corrected. I think it had gone to about, probably he bought it at close to the high sort of, because I remember seeing it at 190 just before the onset of this recent correction. So I would really hold on to the stock. I think this stock has a lot more room from current levels.
Okay, this one is coming from Shailaja, and she wants to know whether she can buy Shriram Transport Finance and Power Finance Corporation at current price for the shorter term. Kunal, either Shriram Transport or PFC, which of these counters should Shailaja look at?
Definitely Shriram Transport is a much better bet. It's a more solid chart, very, very strong in terms of the recovery. The last 6 months has been more consistent in terms of price action. In fact, it's given a big breakout as well on the longish term kind of a time scale, a bullish flag pattern breakout on the monthly charts for Shriram Transport. And on the other hand, Power Finance and REC Limited, both of these stocks which typically move in tandem, both of these stocks have been big underperformers. And I think if I'm not wrong, Power Finance is also trading below its 200 moving average as of now. So the chart structure looks to be more weak and very susceptible for Power Finance, and which is why I believe Shriram Transport holds a better edge in comparison with PFC. So I would suggest Shriram Transport.
She is a medium-term investor, and I'm actually quite curious to find out what that means, because I've mostly heard of long-term and short-term, or trader, that there's no short-term investor. I must rectify that. Sudha's asking a question, Sharmila, to you, and she's looking at Welspun Corporation. It's really a stock in focus today, is gaining about 5%, but she's wondering whether to buy at this juncture.
Which one is this? Welspun Corp?
Yes, Welspun Corporation.
Okay. So let me just take a quick look at that. I think that, where the stock is currently, I think it's a good idea to hold on to this stock. About re-entering, maybe not immediately. You could wait for a bit if you wanted to add more rather. And the Q2 net results were not so great. But I would think that if you are a longer term investor, you could continue to hold the stock.
All right. The next query that actually we are getting is from Apratim Mukherjee, and has a question on Hindustan Copper, bought at 125 rupees per share levels. Would like to know the prospects for the next 6 months. Kunal, how does actually Hindustan Copper look on the charts? What should Apratim do with the holding?
The best part about the question is that the viewer has bought at not a very high price. It's not that the viewer has entered into prices of 180 and 185 and higher for Hindustan Copper. In fact, is bought it at the much lower in the price trajectory. This brings in a lot of comfort when you're looking to buy the stock and hold the stock from a medium term to longer term kind of a view. So I think Hindustan Copper is a stock which has gone through a correction. It's now getting into has gone through a time price correction and is now getting into time correction for itself. So maybe for the next couple of months, the stock can remain a bit more sideways, consolidate at this 110 to 130 odd range for itself for the near term. But I would sense that if you've bought at just nearby levels for the stock price, you should definitely look to hold on, because whenever the tide changes yet again for these metals and commodity stocks, you should see a very strong uptick which could come by into these names. So I would suggest a hold on Hindustan Copper as of now.
Okay, we've got a question from Professor Thomas George, and he's asking, Sharmila, Zensar Tech or Birla Soft, which of these would you bet on for the long term?
Well, I hold Zensar Tech, so I think I'm going to go with Zensar Tech. I think among the sort of mid-cap IT names, this is one of the names that I like. I think Birla Soft would also be okay. Another name that they could look at is Persistent System. Then another interesting stock is Tata Elxsi. But having said that, I think the broader expectation and bet is that some of these stocks which are sort of catering to niche play within the IT, they will do well. And yes, I like the large cap IT as well. But within these two names, I think I prefer Zensar Tech.
Okay, this one is from Mr. Balan, and he's asking a very pertinent question given the volatility in the market. So he's saying the market seems to be very volatile for retail investors. So he wants to know, is it good to sell IT and metal counters like Mindtree and L&T Infotech and look to buy banking or FMCG, or just wait and watch? So what should he do, Kunal? Given the volatility in the markets for a retail investor, what would be a good advice? For Mr. Balan, he's asking IT and metal, should he go ahead and sell and look at banking or FMCG, or just wait and watch?
Yeah, I think it's very, very specific. In fact, it's very broad. So to be very specific, I'll require a lot of time to discuss, on majority of the pointers. But, broadly what happens is that when the market gets into a corrective phase, you have to identify, one very important theme, that when the market gets into a downtrend, for example, there are certain set of sectors which could probably lead the downtrend. And in this case, we had the metals and the banking, sectors, which were the leaders in terms of in terms of taking the markets on the downside. Now, when the market gets into a downward trend, like what happens in an uptrend, you keep on seeing the phase of sector rotation. So the rally keeps on shifting from one sector to the other sector. The same happens with the markets getting into a downtrend, where after certain sectors being into the oversold territory like metals and banking, it's possible that the other sectors like maybe the ITs and autos, etc., they could get into a corrective bit. So I would sense that you are now into phase of a sector rotation, where it's possible that the metals and banking in fact can bounce back from here, and IT and maybe auto or the other sectors like cement, etc., they could underperform for some more time. So it has to be very, very specific towards what kind of leg you want to play for the markets. Are you playing for the bounce, or are you playing for the next leg of correction? And that's how I think you should position yourself.
So, Sharmila, this next question is, of course, from Amit, and he is asking about Tarsons. It's an IPO that took place recently. I believe the listing is tomorrow. But I think it's more important to talk about what he intends to do. And I think he subscribed to the IPO with the intention of possibly selling it on listing day, hoping for a pop. I'm just trying to get a sense from you. Everything that we've spoken about in the past, it's not the right way to go about things, right? You would go in for an IPO if you firmly believe in the company, its philosophy, and think about holding for the long term. If you want to trade, you can always trade in the secondary market later. So would you want to caution or advise investors to not go via this route?
So far, I just again saw a statistic that showed all the recent IPOs and that have listed and where they are from their listing price, and as of I think yesterday or day before yesterday. So net, I think most have done quite well. I think with the exception of Paytm, and then there is one more which is below the issue price. Some have actually gone up and then corrected from that level, but they're still comfortably above their issue price. So I think perhaps which is what encouraged more and more investors to get into this, this flipping game, that you get allotment and you sell the very next day and you make some amount of money. So I don't want to say whether one is right or wrong. But what works for me really is to apply for an IPO only when I really like it. And when I think valuation, which again is not a word which people look at too closely these days, but that works in your favor, and you like the story, and you think that it has enough room to go up from here, even if it is at a price maybe you're not very comfortable in terms of valuation. So that's how I would approach it. So I think Tarsus was fairly well received, I think, as an IPO, but I'm not too sure whether it will do well given the current environment. Given the fact that a story which was as fancied as Paytm, which was our one of our last listings, has not done too well. So I'm not too sure how this will do. But yes, I think if you're a longer term investor, even if you've got a small allotment in the IPO, I think if you want to add more, just wait it out a bit. I think about a month and a half or 2 months down the line, it gives you a better perspective on how market has really received the IPO. So that would be the broad advice for Tasis. And I think you're just going to have to wing it tomorrow and see how it opens.
This one is coming from Sagar, and this one is for you specifically, Kunal. He wants an intraday view on Reliance. He's bought 2360 call option at 20 rupees. So should I hold or book profits is what he's asking you.
In fact, put a trailing stop loss to this because I think if I'm not wrong, the option is trading at 68 or 70 plus rupees as of now, assuming if it's a current expiry. I believe that Reliance Industries is the only stock which is showing a lot of momentum today, and it's trying to recover back from what it lost, I think, a couple of days back. When the news flow of Aramco, etc., came out for Reliance Industries. So I think when you typically see such kind of recovery, you can expect that the stock would maintain its leadership quality. So I think with a trailing stop loss just around that 50 odd mark for the option, I would suggest a hold on Reliance on the option call which you have.
Okay, interesting. Certainly the stock of the day so far and lending quite a bit of support to the Nifty 50, up close to 4% at this juncture, Reliance Industries. This next question, I believe, is also a strategic sort of a question, Sharmila. We've got Lakshman writing in from Denmark asking about REITs and what your approach should be. Would you suggest that he can get into embassy office parks, for example?
Well, honestly, REITs in the Indian context, it's not an idea that has really been fully explored. Probably, since you said that this investor is writing from Denmark, I think, overseas, these are more fully explored options. And, whether when you're investing in a real estate, you sort of know which zone it is, and each has their own premium, etc. And so that works better. But having said that, I think it's an interesting concept, and this is definitely an area of the future, sort of, where things can only get better, policy can get better, a whole host of issues will get sorted, and overall this space will look more attractive. So I think just from that perspective, yes, I think he can look at embassy, but he must bear in mind that this market in the Indian context is very different from the REITs market from where he's living, and that he needs to give this story time to really sort of get better. And if I can just, I was just looking, in the meantime at the kind of grey market premium that there is for Tarsan, and I believe it's quite attractive. So maybe, our investor will be lucky and he'll make good money on his allotment tomorrow.
Coming in from Ajay, and he wants to know, can Bajaj Electricals be bought at current market price with a 3-month view? Kunal, Bajaj Electricals, just a 3-month view is what Ajay is asking, but nevertheless, can this particular counter be bought at current market price 4, 3, 6, 1 year view?
Well, yeah, I think for a short-term view, you can look to buy the stock. It's corrected, I think 40% from 1550 as a high towards 1050 where the stock is trading. So almost a 500, 550 point correction for Bajaj Electrical has already happened. The indicators are oversold. RSI divergence is something which is getting spotted on the daily charts. So which means that probably the correction would likely get over sooner than later, and you might see the stock getting into the process of a bounce or a recovery from current level. So I think whenever the recovery happens, even if it's a 38% retracement, for example, on Fibonacci series, you could probably expect the stock coming back towards 1200, 1250. So that should bring an upside of 20% on Bajaj Electrical at current levels, given a time frame which you have of 3 months or 6 months plus.
All right, this next one's for you, Kunal. Nehal has got MTAR Tech at 1075, seemingly a really attractive price. So she's thinking of 2-year time frame. Should she hold on?
Listed name. I think if I'm not wrong, just about 7-8 months of price history for MTAR Tech. But I think after yesterday's price action, it's now got back into the eyes of a lot of traders, because I think yesterday, if I'm not wrong, the stock hit a high of 2,100 plus and closed above it. Today also the stock is looking quite okay for itself. It's tried to absorb the major part of volatility, and volumes are still pretty strong for MTAR Tech even at current levels. So given the context of the rally in the last 5-6 months, and the recovery of price action, stability of volumes, I would expect that you should hold on to the stock.
Okay, now we move on to the rapid fire segment. The first one is for you, Kunal, on Colgate. Johan wants to know that he's holding Colgate at an average price of 1,537 odd rupees. Should I exit or average further?
Well, I think you should look to wait for average. I think 1420 could be a good averaging point for Colgate, specifically if you have a time frame of 3 to 6 months.
Okay, Uttam Sugars, if you have a view on this, Kunal, please do share. Bought at levels of 270. Nupur Shankar from Bengaluru wants to know what to do.
Well, I don't have the stock regularly, but looking at the charts, I think you should look to exit. Shift towards better quality names on the sugar pack, either Rampur Sugar, Triveni, or else Balrampur Chini. I think out of these three key names is what we should look out for in sugar pack.
Okay, this one is from Philip George from Bangalore, and he's saying he's bought Tata Motors at 305 rupees per share, about 205 shares. He wants to know what to do with it. Can he keep it for the longer term? Sharmila, what should Philip do with his holding in Tata Motors?
Yes, he's bought it at an attractive price, so I think he can continue to do it.
Sharmila, Balaji Amines bought at levels of 4,000. The question is, should you hold or should you sell? The investor is Sarma Ji from Hyderabad. He's a long-term investor.
Continue to hold this.
Okay, Dikshita wants to know whether Kaveri Seeds or Cadila Health, which of these can be bought at current market price, Kunal?
Well, I think I would suggest Cadila Healthcare, and if possible, then you can even look at Glenmark Pharma at current levels. Both these pharma names are looking very attractive.
Okay, we've got a question from Prashant to Kunal. This is SBI Life at levels of 1,176. Would you shift to something like an ICICI Bank? I believe you had suggested this name in the Chartbuster segment today.
Well, yes, I would suggest that probably SBI Life could be a better bet, but even as ICICI Bank is also a quality stock. It depends on your time horizon as well as your the risk appetite. But I believe both these stocks are very attractive. So if you can allocate 50% on each, that would be a better bet for both of these names.
All right, and this one is from Ravi and wants a long-term view on Tanla and also a stop loss. And since he's asking for stop loss, I'll come to you. Kunal, how does Tanla platforms look over the longer term? And a stop loss, if you can.
It looks very attractive. In fact, Cheryl, if you remember, a few weeks back, we had this discussion on long-term stocks, and this has been one stock which I have been recommending quite strongly. Looks attractive. Long-term wise, difficult to suggest a stop loss, but I think 1,000 to 1,100 seems to be a very good support zone for Tanla.
Okay, unfortunately we're at the end of the rapid fire segment and indeed the query segment. So everybody who's been missed out today, apologies for that. We will try and take as many queries as possible in tomorrow's session. And on that note, Kunal as well as Sharmila, thank you so much. You've been incredible today. Thank you so much once again for taking the time. We're slipping to a short break, but there's more on the other side, so do stay tuned.
देखो 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 नया टीवी देखो aha got the veggies from Chodu's shop. He gives the right rate.
Yes, Papa.
Decided 55-inch TV on this wall.
Oh, super. I'll write out the check tomorrow.
No, you don't. I will with my own money.
Oh, wow. How come?
Look at this advertisement. 30% assured returns on investment. I am also going to invest my money.
So vegetables